Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cindi Lynch, Stenograph's Training Program Manager, and I will be your instructor today. Okay, the first portion of our class, this class was titled Remote Reporting, Real-Time, and CaseViewNet Browser. And I want to start with just talking about remote reporting and how it can be done, and some of the common tips and tricks and facts and fallacies that go along with doing remote reporting. The first thing, everybody seems to think that Zoom is the only way to do remote reporting, and in fact, that's not true. There are a lot of different web conferencing apps being used. Typically, it will be the court reporting firm or the court which will decide what app is going to be used. Sometimes it will be a client when you're a freelancer. Very rarely is it the court reporter themselves, but whoever it is that makes that decision will choose which web conferencing app they're going to be using. Zoom is currently the most popular, and that is, it's become, just like Kleenex is a catch-all term now for any kind of facial tissue, so has Zoom become the catch-all term for web conferencing apps. But there are tons out there. As you can see, I've listed them here on my slide. There could be Zoom, there could be WebEx, which is a product which was very popular and is very popular with educational institutions, GoToMeeting, Microsoft Teams, FaceTime for those who are on Macs. There's Google Hangout, there's Amazon Chime, there's Adobe has Adobe Connect. There's so many different possibilities which are out there. Some are better, some are less good. It just depends on what's available in each application, how easy it is to use. Most of them are pretty easy. So regardless of which app you're asked to use, you should not panic. If it's Zoom and you're familiar with it, great. But if it's something else, assume you will be able to learn it instantly. All of these are designed to be very intuitive and very simple to use. So let's talk about the common features that they all have. All of these apps are designed to enable people to share audio and video from whatever location they happen to be in. So the idea would be that they would create a quality shared video and shared audio experience. We all know that because it's been, a little over 2 months now, that we have not been getting together in person and being able to be in the same rooms with each other. And I know that varies depending on what part of the country you're in. I'm here in California, and I haven't seen another person aside from my grocery store checkers and some of my neighbors at least a 6-foot distance or more for quite some time. So Zoom and other web conferencing apps have become my connection, not only to it's been my connection to my family, it's been my connection to good friends, and I use it quite a bit. And of course, we can use it for work as well. So the whole idea of these apps is that regardless of where you are, you can see each other, you can make a video call, and you can hear each other. So they also all have the ability to share a screen and share information. So just like this particular software that I'm using for this webinar, which is called GoToWebinar, it allows me to share my PowerPoint display with you so that you can see that screen. In a deposition or in a court setting or a hearing, if someone has exhibits or someone has a slide that they want everyone to see or information, obviously this can be shared through a screen sharing tool, which is within the web conferencing app. Another thing they all have in common is that they all support multiple devices. It's not just computers and it's not just PCs. Most of them will be supported on whether you're using a PC or a Mac or a tablet, whether it's an iPad or an Android tablet or a phone, regardless of whether it's an iPhone or an Android or a Galaxy or a Samsung or, whatever the particular brand is that you happen to be using. Almost every web conferencing app has a app that will run on your particular device. The interfaces are very easy to use. They use a lot of the same symbols. The webcam symbol has become fairly universal. It either looks like an old-fashioned, like a box with a little triangle on it, which means webcam, or it will be, it'll look like a camera, like an old-fashioned or an expensive DSLR camera. They have anything that has to do with a microphone or audio will usually be represented by the picture of a microphone. So when you look at things and look for things, you're going to see things which make sense to you. So it will be fairly easy to find the things. And even if they don't use the exact same terminology, it will be easy to figure it out. They all have chat capabilities, which allows you to share information. That's going to become very important later on in this webinar when we talk about CaseViewNet Browser and being able to share the information for an attorney or a cart client or whomever to get the real-time text that you may wish to send. We'll talk about that one a little bit later. Most of these apps also have the ability to record the meeting so that there can be a record of the audio and visual portion of what was taking place, as well as the voice-to-text transcription that you're providing. And then in a business grade product, you will likely have detailed security options. And we're going to talk about those because security is obviously a matter of importance in our field, because we need to know who in fact can get in to see what we're doing and who cannot. Who can we exclude, because these are confidential proceedings in the most for the most part. The general public is not supposed to be allowed to just get in and do whatever they want, depending on what the particular things that you might need to do. So let's talk about what some of those security features are. First of all, you won't have any on a consumer plan. There pretty much are no security features available to stop someone from trying to hack into your feed. And it's fairly easy for most people to figure out how to get in, when you are on a consumer plan. So if you're doing anything which isn't even remotely confidential, it's worth spending a few bucks and getting the business plan. You should always be on the latest software version. It's very simple to check a software version. In almost every product you go for, there will be a place where you see your name or a gear icon for settings. And if you click your name or the gear icon or wherever it is that you go for settings in that particular application, like in Zoom, it's just your picture. And you just click on your icon, which shows you, and then a drop-down menu comes and shows you update this software. And you can click on that. In fact, I did that earlier today because I'm going to be having a big Zoom meeting with all of my certified independent training agents fairly soon. And I wanted to make sure that I'm on the latest version. And in fact, it immediately popped up and said, hey, there's an update. And 5.03 is now available. So I updated my Zoom software to 5.03 just a couple hours ago, or well, before the last webinar. With many of the different apps, they will give you an ID which is assigned for each meeting, as opposed to one generic ID which is just geared to you. That would make sense if you're only talking to a very small group of people and it's the reusable ID. If you're constantly just doing a video call to family members or something like that, then the reusable ID is just fine because nobody's breaking in on your personal family calls. However, when you're holding a confidential meeting, obviously having a unique ID that you use that's assigned for one particular meeting that can block out people who don't have that ID makes sense. Also having password protection, that's another feature which is usually available when you set up or schedule a meeting. Now again, you may not be the person who's setting all this up. Frequently, that will be the firm that you are working for, unless you are the person at the firm who's setting this up, or it may be a client who sets it up. But the important thing is that it exists. And when you get your link to log in, it usually contains all the information you need so that you can get in. They will send you that information privately. It's not like someone's going to post it on Google or post it on Facebook. We don't want to have just a generic message that goes out that thousands of people can see. Unless it is supposed to be public or available to the general public. And even in that case, usually what will happen, like let's say, I know that in Texas, they had a great big event yesterday where the public was allowed to go see the first distance jury trial and, the remote jury trial. And I don't know how that actually turned out. I heard about a couple of incidents which occurred during the trial, but anyway, if it is that kind of a setting where it's going to be a mixed audience, where some people are actually active participants and some people are just watching, there will probably be different kinds of assignments and different links for different parties, some where they're allowed to do things like share the screen and or be heard, others who will never be heard because they get muted automatically. It just depends on what the particular setup will be, and again, just depends on the individual software as to how creative you can get with that. I found that from reports that I've gotten from various reporters who have been discussing this with me, that one of the most common things that everyone will do now is use a waiting room. They will enable the waiting room, which is exactly what you were in before you came into this particular webinar. You were in the waiting room when you logged on, but before I started the broadcast, you weren't actually able to get in until I clicked a button that allowed you in. Same thing will go for various web conferences. And some people will have monitors who actually stand by and will singularly admit each person, where they have to click on someone to allow them to get into the meeting room, and they can be booted out as well. There can be locks, which once everybody is in, that's it, the meeting is locked and no more people can ever get in. And there are also tools that allow you to limit who is allowed to share a screen and who is not. That was a big news story early on in when people started going to school remotely. A lot of the teachers were having issues where they were giving a lecture and then people were jumping into their classes and sharing the screen because they didn't know how or didn't know that they had to lock it down. And then all of a sudden, inappropriate things were appearing on the shared screen. So that can be prevented very, very easily by having a nice, secure, updated software and by limiting who is allowed to screen share. Okay, tips for the best experience. The first thing, and one of the most important things for reporting, of course, is audio. You want the best possible quality that you can get. When we first started all of this 3 months ago, where it was becoming more and more popular, people have been doing this for quite some time, especially my remote cart providers, where they kind of paved the way for all of us in terms of determining what kinds of things we could and could not do. And when everybody suddenly had to jump on board and say, okay, well, if I'm going to take a job and I have to be able to do this remote thing, what equipment do I need? Well, the first thing you need to know is how you're going to get your audio. Is it coming directly from the computer, from the web conferencing app's audio, along with the video at the same time? Or do you use a telephone? Do you use a phone to get the audio portion and just use the web conferencing app to get the video portion? Some people like to separate that out because they find they get better quality. It totally depends on the individual circumstances as to which is going to be best. It depends on things like what kind of an internet connection do you have? Are you wired? Are you Wi-Fi? Is your Wi-Fi steady and reliable, or does it fluctuate in and out depending on the strength of your connection on that particular day? How about the other participants? How good is theirs? If they sound terrible and tinny, it might be just that they have, a crappy microphone and it wasn't set up very well. For you, what I found for most people is that if you have a decent quality microphone and a decent quality speaker, then if you have a decent quality internet connection, then chances are just using the computer audio will be just fine. We used to say, no, call-in was always going to be better, but that's not always the case anymore. Things have gotten much, much better on the web conferencing end in terms of how they have written the software so that it will communicate audio in a better way. So sometimes the computer audio can be superior to the call-in. I think that the best thing for you to do, the best advice I can give is try it. See what sounds good to you. And if it's not quite that good, either way, then find out what other things you can do to amplify. Like with a telephone, if you're using a call-in, but the speaker on your telephone is not good enough, you could probably just add a device like I have this particular device, and we'll talk about very specific setups shortly. But like I bought one of these. This is just a speakerphone. It's an Anchor brand. Excuse me, let me just hold that up to the webcam so everybody can see that. It's a very, very simple Bluetooth device. I turn on my phone, I turn this on, they connect to each other. And I've been using it for family Zoom meetings so that when my husband and I are trying to talk to the family and listen to the family, that we can hear it over that device, but use a call-in number because the quality of our connection is not that great. My internet is satellite internet. I don't have access to cable or to phone company internet because I live out in the what I call middle of nowhere adjacent. So since I'm out in the boonies, my internet isn't always that strong. And just depending on how cloudy of a day it is and whether or not I have rain, that may determine whether or not I've got decent Wi-Fi. So splitting up the signal between the audio and the video for me is generally a good idea because that way I don't lose my video. One of the first things that any web conference software person will tell you if they're helping you troubleshoot is if you're having trouble with the audio, turn off the video. If you're using both from them, because that will strengthen the signal, is to lose the video, and then you have more resources focused on the audio. So again, if you split that up to begin with, chances are you might get better for both. Okay, the most important things that you want to make sure to get the best results. Number one, everybody in the conference should be told, if they don't know already, that if you're not speaking, you should mute your audio. You'll notice that everyone in this particular conference is automatically muted. GoToWebinar is set up that way. I make sure that nobody except the people with the right to speak in this particular webinar, which is me and my Stenograph colleagues, if I really wanted to hear a question out loud, I could unmute someone selectively. But I don't have any of you unmuted at the moment because none of you really needs to be speaking or communicating to me live during the class. And by keeping you muted, it means that I don't hear what's going on at your location. I don't hear your dogs. I don't hear your cats. I don't hear your children. I don't hear your spouse. I don't hear any interference from the TV that's in the room next door. And I don't hear the call or myself speaking over your computer. And that can be really annoying to people who are trying to conference. So again, that's something where if you're in a remote proceeding, you want to make sure that everybody is being considerate. I will tell you that the reports I've had from many of the reporters who have been doing this, and I've been interviewing people I'm working on a new video for the Remote Reporting 101 series of videos that I've sent out for Stenograph. I've been interviewing reporters to see what their real world experiences have been. And a couple of the reporters have commented to me that they've actually been delighted by attorneys' behavior once they become familiar with web conferencing because they start speaking one at a time. They don't speak on top of each other because they know it makes it impossible to hear for themselves. Suddenly they have become enlightened as to how wonderful it is when you can actually hear everybody and not just, in other words, it becomes much more considerate towards your requirements. Video. Do you want to be seen? Some people do, some people don't. Some people will simply allow themselves to be seen at the very beginning when they swear in the witness and or do a read-on, and then they close out their camera and just let themselves be an icon or a photograph and don't allow themselves to be seen at all. They just turn off their camera. That's entirely up to you. Some people, some reporters I know like to be seen. They want to be seen so that everyone remembers that they're there and that they are considered. Plus, they like people to know when they're going off the record or are having a problem, they'll actually wave at the camera and say, hey, I'm not writing, look at me, hands are not on a writer, so that they can interrupt and make sure everybody knows they're off the record. Again, it's up to you as to whether or not you want to be seen, and it's up to your individual circumstances as to what's best. But if you are going to be seen, like I'm being seen today, you want to be in a setting which is not visually disruptive. Most of the apps which are out there right now will give you something called a virtual background where you can set up pretty much any picture behind you. Zoom has that capability. GoToWebinar does not, which is why you're seeing my office right now. There are ways to kind of jury rig that in other different web conferencing apps. Like if I wanted to, I could use a program called minicam.com and I could force a virtual background onto this, but I found that I don't really like to do that. My background is plain enough and it's not disruptive and it's not going to, nobody's walking in and out of my room. You'll notice that I have a closed door behind me. No one's going to be walking in through that door and suddenly interrupting. You're not going to see my dogs come in or anything like that, because this is a professional circumstance and I set it up so that it would be non-disruptive. With a crazy virtual background, it might be very clever and very interesting. I've seen some wonderful ones, and I love to use my photos when I'm doing a Zoom family gathering, but for a professional setting, it's probably best just to have a plain background. If you have a virtual background which is plain, or you want to create a picture of just a plain color or something like that, that works just fine. Just be aware that if you're using a virtual background, everything outside your head and shoulders, everything beyond that does not get seen necessarily by your webcam. It's trying to block all that out, and so they just see the edges of you. So you can only be seen, like you can only show your hands if they're right in front of your body as opposed to outside of your body, because those then get hidden behind the picture. So it can be a little bit odd. You need to play with it a little bit if you're going to use that. The other thing is that you have to remember that you can be seen. That's normal when we're in person. We know that we can be seen, and so we're very careful about what we do with various. Well, we're careful to get dressed appropriately. Like I bothered to, wear real clothes today as opposed to my normal t-shirt or sweatshirt and jeans. I went ahead and I put on normal business clothes because I want to represent. You expect a professional here, and so I'm dressed professionally. A lot of people forget about dressing professionally now that they're working from home. That's fine, but again, if you're in a business situation, you should be wearing business attire, and that includes pants. Yep, got to wear pants. Yes, even though nobody can see them, you never know when you're going to have to stand up. And if you have to stand up, you've got a horrible itch, something. If somebody sees that you're not wearing pants, it could be bad. So, remember that you can be seen. And close the door, exclude everyone else from the house, make them aware that this is a private, confidential business proceeding, and children are not welcome, and pets are not welcome. They might be, I don't know. Sometimes people get together in these meetings and they like to say, "Oh, did you want to see my puppy?" And it can be great. It can be a nice, lighthearted moment. But again, as a general rule, we're doing this for business purposes. We're doing this for legal purposes. We don't want to have a disruptive environment. Okay, so let's talk about equipment and let's talk about setup and what you can do and what you can't do. One of the biggest fallacies out there is that if you're going to do this, you absolutely must do real time. That's not true. You don't even have to have your CAT system up and running to be able to do this. You can just simply have Zoom going and you could just be writing. Is it the ideal circumstance? Maybe not. Real time can be the best because that way people can see what is being heard and what isn't being heard based on the quality of the transcript. But if you're asking what's possible, it's absolutely possible to do it writer only. So let's start with that. Let's talk about what you would need for the equipment and setup if you're not doing real time. Well, first of all, you need some sort of device for the web conference, for the Zoom application. So that could be a computer, it could be a tablet, it could be a smartphone, it could be, any of those three. For the audio, it's the same device as your video, or it's either a cell phone or some other kind of phone that has the ability to plug into a speaker if you need to be able to hear better than what you can hear just from the phone's speaker. So what most people will do is use a cell phone. And again, if they want to connect it to a speakerphone, they might do that. Again, it's just up to the individual as to what you might want to do. I've listed a wide variety of possibilities in the handout that I provided to you in terms of what items you might want to go ahead and use if you're setting up. By all means, please feel free to peruse those. I also have 4 documents on our help desk, the Stenograph help desk, which is called the Stenograph Solutions Center. You can just go to stenograph.com and then click support and then Solutions Center and look up I'm trying to remember if it's web conference or if it's just Zoom, or I think it's Zoom and AudioSync, or, just general generic terms, remote reporting, that will probably get you there. And then you can go ahead and find documents that are very specific to your particular setup as to what equipment you might want to use and how to connect it. So you need a device so you can hear and see the web conference. The next thing that you need is your writer. If you're not planning to use AudioSync, that's it, you're done. If you are planning to use AudioSync, then obviously your equipment for AudioSync from your writer depends on what you want to use to record to your writer. So if I'm going to record and capture the audio from the computer or the tablet or the phone and put it onto my writer while I'm writing, well, obviously, you've got a microphone port on the back of your writer. I'm assuming, of course, that we're talking about people with writers that have microphone ports. So like a Luminex II, a Luminex I, a Diamante. I believe at least one of the mirrors had that. I can't remember how far back those go. That's starting to get into dusty memory days. Or, some of our competitors' writers too. I don't mean to, say that you can't do that on those, because I don't know what all of their capabilities are or what the names are. But the important thing is that your writer does have an audio capability if you want to record but not do real time. So if you're going to record to your writer directly, then how do you connect it to the device that is spouting out a sound? Well, if it's your computer, if you're using a PC, then the sound comes out where? Probably from a speaker. And how does sound get into your writer? Well, it usually goes in through a microphone port. So can you connect the microphone port directly to the speaker port? You may be able to do that with a standard 3mm male-to-male cable. You may need to add a splitter so that you can both connect the microphone to the port, but you can also connect that port to a speaker so that you can still hear out loud, or connect headphones so that you can hear through the headphones. It just depends on what it is that you're using. If you're using call-in audio, so you're having audio on a phone while you're looking at the video on a computer, then how do you get the sound from the phone or the phone's speaker to your writer? Could be as simple as just simply connecting the microphone to your AudioSync, to your microphone port on your writer, and then placing the microphone right next to the speaker. So let's take a look at that. For web conference audio, you can plug a microphone into your writer and set it next to the device's speaker. The quality of the audio is dependent on the speaker or potential sources of interference. I do like to point out to everyone that if you're going to set a microphone next to a speaker, make sure, first of all, that your microphone cable is not touching any power cables or any other cables. Make sure it's a nice, clean, straight line as much as possible from that mic to wherever the speaker is, and keep it about, 8 to 12 inches away, maybe a foot away from where the speaker actually is. It should be able to gather that sound without a problem. And if it's not too close, you're not as liable to get any feedback. Okay. You can plug a microphone into your writer, set it next to the device's speaker, or you can cable directly from the writer to the laptop or tablet that's being used for the web conferencing app if it has a built-in microphone port or a microphone and a speaker and headphone port. Most computers these days don't seem to come with both. That's why a lot of people will add, and you can see on the screen there, that's a picture of an Andrea Pure Audio card. So it's an external audio card that can do both playback and recording, but it splits up the ports so that you can decide what gets connected where. So with this particular card, if you wanted to get from your computer to your writer, that pink port over there, which is the microphone port, that would just be for you speaking into your computer and sharing with the Zoom conference. The green one is the sound which is coming out, so that would be what you want to hear when you're actually writing, and it would also be what you want to record to your writer. So since you have two destinations you want to go to, that's when you might choose to use what we call a splitter. And let me just show you an example of one. There's also one in your handout, and I might even have that on the next slide. Let me do that. Let me just show it to you on the slide because me holding it up to my webcam is not necessarily the best view, but this is what a splitter is. And there's a picture of one on your handout. And it's just basically, it's a male port on one side, 2 female ports on the other. And if I were to plug this end into the output port of my computer's audio card, then I could then plug in one cable going to my writer, So from the output port, there we go. So from the output port of the writer over to the input port on the computer side to this splitter. And I could also connect the other port here to either a speaker or to a headset so that I could be hearing what was going on. That's one way to do it. And this same setup will probably work with just about every other setup that we work with. We'll talk about that. Now, one of the questions that I got in the last couple of times I taught this was, where do I get a splitter? I bought this particular one that I showed you before on Amazon for $3. I mean, they're literally super, super cheap. They're not specialty equipment. They're very easy to find. And that the male-to-male 3.5 millimeter auxiliary cable so that I can plug directly from my writer into a port, that cost me, I think, $6 or $8, something like that. I mean, you can get them very expensive with special gold tips and what. A standard cable seemed to work pretty well for me. So just letting you know, there's a lot of different options out there. Amazon is only one source. If you're not a big Amazon person, I'm sure you could find it probably at Walmart or Best Buy or whatever is your particular preferred source. Okay. If you're using call-in audio, again, you can just plug the microphone into your writer and set it next to a speaker. If your cell phone speaker is not loud enough, you can connect it to an external speaker. That's what I was holding up before. Mine was an Anchor. The picture of the one on the slide here is a Jabra or Jabra. I don't know how to pronounce that company's name, Jabra. That was one that I had recommended to me by a Texas reporter. There's a lot of different kinds out there. The one that I got for myself was about $100. It wasn't terribly expensive, and it seems to work fairly well for what I've used it for. There are other ones that I know that go upwards of $300 and $400. There really isn't a reason to spend a ton of money on this, but there's a lot of different quality, and you'll see what you need. I would say try a low end one first, and if you don't like the quality, see if you can return it. So, okay, and that again is only if you're using the call-in option. Okay, so that's if you're not doing real time. But what if you do real time? Well, there's different kinds of real time. There's real time for yourself and real time for other client consumption. If you're doing it, either way, then your equipment needs to start to go up, because not only do you need your writer and you need a device by which you can hear and see the Zoom conference or whatever web conferencing software you're using. I'll just use Zoom as our shortcut word for now. Not only do you need to see and hear the Zoom, but you also need to see your software, and your software needs to be able to record what is actually happening. So the question then becomes, do I want to do this on one piece of equipment where I use one computer where I'm doing both Zoom and Case Catalyst or whatever my CAT software is, or do I want to do it on two computers, one for the Zoom conference and one for the CAT software? That's up to you. It's not that there is a best way, and anybody who says there is one best way for everyone to do it is selling you something. It's not necessarily true. What have you got? Start with that, see if it works well for you. If not, then think about expanding to other things. For example, if I was doing one computer, I can do that. I can accommodate everything on one computer. However, with only one screen, that would be a little tight for me to be able to see everything I want to see in Catalyst and be able to see all the participants in the Zoom conference and anything they might want to share on this, share a screen and, show me an exhibit or show, whatever. That might be very hard to do on one screen for me, because on my laptop, I only have a 13 point whatever inch screen. Actually, mine is a 15.6. It's not bad, but it's too small for all of that stuff on one screen. So you might want to expand and get a slightly bigger kind of screen for something like that. So how would we do that? Well, you can add a second screen. What you can do is you can, just buy a monitor. You can find monitors relatively cheap these days and just plug it into your HDMI port and suddenly you have two screens. I put in your handout, and I'm just looking for what the exact page is. I believe I might have it quoted here. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So if you're using one computer with multiple screens, and I've got an image of it there on the slide that I'm showing you right now, multiple displays with one app per screen, so that you have your CAT software on one and the Zoom meeting or whatever the product is that you're using on the other screen. That's fairly easy to set up. The first time that you do it, though, it can be a little confusing. So I've got the step-by-step directions. I believe they are on pages 6 and 7 of your handout, and they'll walk you through how to actually set that up. That's not terribly relevant to what we're talking about today. It's just, you can set up two apps on two different screens fairly easily by extending your display, and then just, it just enables you to put more than one program and just keep each one separate to each screen. Okay, audio-wise, what would you need? Okay, if we're all on one computer, that means multiple products are using my speakers and my microphone. So do I need more than one microphone? Do I need more than one set of speakers? Well, it depends on what software you've got on your computer. The first thing you need to know is that if you want to do this without cables, if you just want the system to just know, hey, whatever sound you're getting in from whatever app that I'm using, or whatever internal microphone that I'm using, not my microphone. I'm talking about speakers and talking about sound coming out of your computer. If I want that to automatically be recorded by my computer and not have to set up cables of any kind, there is a driver that will enable you to do that. It's called Stereo Mix. If you have the Stereo Mix driver in the recording tab of your in control panel of Windows under the sound section, then you can go ahead and just do that. No cables involved, not a whole lot of setup. All you have to do is just go to, you literally, and I have this on page 8, by the way, of your handout, you simply go to Control Panel, you click Sound, you click the Recording tab, and then you just select Stereo Mix. However, not everybody's got that, especially those of us who are on Windows 10. If you're on Windows 10, that particular driver option may have been disabled, or it may never have been loaded. You may have an old version of your audio card firmware, and it may not be on there. So if that driver is not available, or that option is not available, there's a couple different things that you can do. Number one, and I put it on your slide here and in your handout that I sent out to you, one of the things that you can do is you can try to right click, go back to that same place I was just talking about where you go ahead and select Stereo Mix, right click it and see if Show Disabled Devices is selected or not. If it's not selected, select it, and then Stereo Mix may just pop up. It may just simply have been disabled and not showing. You want that to be available, so you would want to show any disabled devices. If it still doesn't pop up after you've done Show Disabled Devices, then you can download it. It took me forever to find this. I've been looking for this for, I can't tell you how many weeks now, because I thought it was just impossible. You just couldn't find it anywhere, that it didn't exist anymore, but it does. And a good, wonderful person who doesn't like to be mentioned publicly, so I won't give her name, but she sent me the link yesterday, literally yesterday. And I had been investigating all sorts of alternatives, and I was testing new third-party applications, and it turns out none of them may be necessary because Stereo Mix can be downloaded. So, and I was able to download it on my own system yesterday. So I was very excited when I found out the Stereo Mix should be available to most people. If for any reason you can't get Stereo Mix for this particular setup, then your option is to use call-in. So you just use a call-in sound instead. And if you are using call-in, the same as it was with your writer, you can just place your microphone from where you're going to be recording, your computer, because your computer is where you're doing your audio sync, and just place that right near the speaker for the call-in number. Another option is you can use 2 computers or 1 computer and 1 tablet. And if you use 1 computer and 1 tablet, or 1 computer or 2 computers, then you have pretty much all the same options. The only difference is where is the sound coming from and what do I need to cable to if I'm going to use cables. Obviously, stereo mix wouldn't work for this. The stereo mix is to say, hey, internally, this is all happening on the same computer. How do I grab from here or here? And stereo mix is what says I can record what I'm hearing without a cable to tell me where to go record. Great. But if you're on 2 different systems, then this one, whoops, there we go. This one is not going to talk to this one unless they're somehow connected. And the only way to connect them is with cables. So the question will be then, how many cables do you need? And how do we set those up? What connects to what? Well, that depends. It depends on, where is the sound coming from? Is it coming from a phone or is it coming from the computer? And so again, you just have to kind of walk through your different options. And all you need to know is where is the sound coming from and where am I recording it? And then make sure that you can hear it as well as record it. So you may need a splitter device so that you can plug in everything that you need. You may not. It just depends on where the sound is coming from. Okay. The next thing I wanted to talk about is, let's say I do real-time with CaseViewNet. What do I need to add on for that? Not much. Basically, you need, if you're a Catalyst user, I'm going to recommend that you have 2 things, that you have a CaseViewNet license and a session code. If you are not a Catalyst user, if you're one of my customers here who decided to come and see me here today, even though you don't have Catalyst yet, I hope that you'll consider converting someday, but until then, for those of you who are not using Catalyst, what you can do is you can use a product called Cloud Gateway, and you can get a session code, and then you can still use an output to CaseViewNet the same way that you would use it with any of our other CaseViewNet products that can receive via the internet. But basically, you just need that session code. You can't get a CaseViewNet license because it won't. You just don't have the ability to interact with it the way a Catalyst user does. Now, a Catalyst user with a CaseViewNet license does have some special options, including rapid refresh. That means any editing that you do on the fly from your writer is included in your output to CaseViewNet, and it is refreshed instantly. There's no backing up. There's no redrawing the screen. It's just instantly there. That also includes if you're working with Realtime. So if you're on Catalyst version 20 or 21, hopefully you're all on version 21.02, which is the latest version out there. If you are using the latest version, then and you're also sending out to CaseViewNet and you're using a Realtime, and you've got scopists working for you and cleaning up as you go, their work is going out to the CaseViewNet feed as well. So it could be a very, very, very clean, good translation that is easy for your clients to use. So you want a CaseViewNet license and a session code. And you notice on the slide that I put, talk to your rep about current special pricing. I am aware that there are some specials that we have done specifically because there are so many people right now who are starting remote reporting for the first time, who are suddenly needing the ability to provide real time. It's not like the days where you simply showed up in a room and passed out a bunch of iPads or, so that everyone could receive from your local router. You can't do that right now because you're not in the same room. So you need to be able to use CaseViewNet Browser where anybody with an internet connection can go ahead and just receive CaseViewNet via the browser of whatever piece of equipment they happen to be using. The directions to purchase and install a CaseViewNet license and session code are on pages 12 and 13 of your handout. But rather than just leap into following those directions, you may want to call your rep and get the special pricing. I know that it is a significant discount because of the COVID-19 pandemic that Stenograph has been offering to make it a whole heck of a lot more palatable for you to get up and running on CaseViewNet browser now. So if you want to use that, how does that actually work? Well, if you'll give me 1 second here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over to Catalyst. Now, again, my non-Catalyst users, I assume you have a similar process. I don't know exactly what your specific process will be. But basically, what the Catalyst user does is they simply open up translation. So I'm going to assume, let me just step back here for, well, or sit back here for a moment and rewind a little bit. And let me rewind even further. One of the cool things about doing remote reporting, once you've done your setup, you're done. Because you're not packing up and moving every day to a different place. You're not going to another office. You're not driving anywhere to go. It's always set up and ready to go. So you only have to do this setup once. And once you've got it tested and you know it's working, you're done. And you can just leave it in place and then you just turn things on and go again and go again. So having a real-time setup at home is going to be very, very convenient. And just think of all of the wear and tear you're going to save on your back and on your legs and on your knees. And you'll have to get your exercise elsewhere now. I recommend gardening and or cats. They are amazingly, they require a lot of energy, I've discovered. Well, kittens. I've got a few kittens and keeping up with them is making me crazy. Okay. Moving back. So if we're going to start CaseViewNet, I'm all set up for my remote real time. I am connected to my Zoom. I'm connected. I have, I've got everything set up recording wise that I'm planning to use. What I'm going to do now is when I've got Catalyst open, I'll go ahead and name the file, put it in a case if it's supposed to be part of the case, or just go ahead and name it. I'll be terribly creative and name it today's date, which is 05/21/2020, and this is a PM session, so I'll just call it PM. I'm not using my real team today. I'm just going to let them rest and relax. I'm just going to do this by myself. But before I click OK, I'm going to go up here to the upper right-hand corner, and where it says Output to, what I'm going to do is rather than None, I'm going to select to Output to CaseView. Now, for my there may be some of you who output to other options as well. I know that some folks will output to CaseViewNet and they will also output to Steno keys. This gets a little bit into the weeds, but basically I know of some people who are providing remote cart who have to send to a third-party program in order to be able to go directly into a feed for captioning or something like that. If that's the case, rather than select output to CaseView, you would choose multiple outputs. And if you chose multiple outputs, you could then tell it, yeah, send it to CaseView, but also send it to output to Steno keys or output to the other device or to ASCII ANSI or whatever that feed was supposed to be, in addition to outputting to CaseViewNet. But for right now, I'm actually just going to use my standard output of CaseView. Okay. Below that, you'll see that there is an option here to view or change CaseViewNet passwords. Passwords are how you protect your feed and determine who gets it and what rights they have once they get it and how long they get it. So I'm going to click the passwords button. And once I do that, I will get a dialog box eventually. It'll pop up on my screen. There it is. By the way, it was showing on mine. It's just that with the delay of GoToWebinar, I have to wait until I know you've got it before I continue speaking. So that's why it's not that my computer is slow. It's that the internet is delaying giving it to you. So it opened up my CaseView passwords dialog box. You'll notice at the very top there are two commands, new password and delete password. Delete password is obviously to get rid of old ones. New password is to create new ones. And what it does when I click new password is that it creates a whole line of information, which you could use immediately just as is if you want to, or you can change some of the items in this password it's created. The first thing it wants to know is whether or not, and in this first column here, it wants to know, are you going to allow your receiver using this password to save the transcript at the end of the session? With CaseViewNet Browser, one of the options in the software is that it has an email button. And what you can then do, assuming you have the rights to save the transcript, is you click that email button and it will send the transcript that you have sent, all of the text that you have sent, and if you've highlighted any lines, it will know which lines were highlighted, that sort of thing. It will go ahead and send that to whatever email address that you select. So someone would email it to themselves, basically. And that file that it sends is in CaseViewNet format. They would then use the PC version of CaseViewNet to open that file. And from there, if they don't like CaseViewNet PC, that software to review their transcript, what they can then do is just simply file, save as, and then they can save it as whatever format they need for whatever particular product they actually do want to use. So for example, if they want to make it into an ASCII so that they can import it into whatever product they would normally use with an ASCII, they can turn it into an ASCII. If they want to change it into a PTF file, they can change it into a PTF file. If they want to change it into a LexisNexis text map file, they can change it into that. So they can set what format they actually want to use once they have emailed the file to themselves. Otherwise, they can wait for you to convert it for them and send it to them in the converted format. But of course, then it wouldn't have, if they had highlighted any lines, they wouldn't have that information. So it can be nice for them to do it themselves. Plus, it's one less task for you. Okay, so do you want them to be able to save or not? You make that choice by checking that box or not checking that box. Multiple users is the only option here. There is another option when you are local. We're not talking about that one because we're not talking about being local right now. Expiration. Should that password be available to whomever uses it forever? Or should it only be available to them for this one job? And how long does this job last? So for example, let's say we're starting a trial and they're going to be getting CaseViewNet Browser output for me every day for the next 4 or 5 weeks. Well, I don't want to have to get a new code every single day and give them a new code every single day. What I might do is I might click in this column and then set an end date. Let's say I expect it to be 4 or 5 weeks. I think we're going to be done by the end of June. Well, then what I could do is I could just click on the little calendar icon here and go to June and then say, let's go through the end of June, June 30th. And so it will expire Tuesday, June 30th at midnight. And so that password is going to be good for that period. Notice that you can also simply make it good for today, today only. If I choose that, then it expires on May 21st at midnight. So it always goes through midnight of whatever day you select. And then you have the password itself. Now, it will generate a random series of 6 letters and numbers. If you don't like that, if you would like it to be a particular word because you're planning to communicate it either in writing or hearing or something like that, if you want it to be like view only because it's something that they can't save anyway and you want to keep it very simple that they could just type view only or something like that, you could change the password to whatever you want. One of the things that I have never liked about this process was that I had to communicate that password to someone somehow. And if you have a password like this first one at the top of my screen where it says 9QOFD, is that an L or a 1? And that O, was it an O or is it a 0? How do you communicate that? How do you know for sure? Well, it's so much easier if you could just copy and paste it, right? Well, sure, I could go in here and I could mark it and I could press Control-C and then I could go open an email message and I could paste that in. That's kind of a pain in the butt. That's why we now have something in Catalyst version 21 called Browser Link. I just adore this. This is such a nifty feature. What we can do is we can just click that browser link, and then those of us with a CaseViewNet license and a session code, it'll just automatically take your session code and it will automatically give you a list of all of your passwords. You pick which password that you want to be able to give to that attorney. So if I wanted the first one, I go ahead and I click that. So it's no save rights and this is the password. And then I can click Generate Link. When I click Generate Link, what happens is it copies the session code and the password to memory and it puts it on the clipboard. That means I can now paste it into an email or chat message and send it to every client who happens to be viewing. So let's say we're connected via Zoom and we're doing a Zoom depot. How do I communicate something to a particular client? Well, one of the things I can do is use the chat function that is built into that web conferencing app. And I could just go ahead and click in the chat app. And I'm actually going to do it here in GoToWebinar. There is a chat app in here. So I'm just going to press Control V to paste into this chat app. And if everyone has the ability to look at their chat, they'll notice that I just sent them a code. And it was this particular password. Now, to you, it'll look a little bit like gobbledygook because it's a huge long web address. It's CaseViewNet.com/index/ blah, 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 session code equals, and has the session code, and then or ampersand, password equals, and then it actually has the password. What that means to you is gobbledygook. You don't care. What it means to the attorney or whoever it is who is receiving it, all they have to do is just click it. So if they click that link in their chat, what's going to happen, and bear with me 1 second here, I'm going to click it and hopefully, good. My internet is going to pop up on that screen. It's just going to take it a second. Whoops. And of course, I then clicked on the wrong thing. And it took my screen away, so I just got to zip back to it. There we go. Sorry about that. I clicked on something in Catalyst, and so it went back to Catalyst. It'll go back to the internet now. Okay, there we go. So it opens up CaseViewNet Browser Edition, and you may notice that the top 2 items here, till 21 and the password, are already filled in, so I'm already good to go. So the attorney already got the most important information, and they didn't have to type it. So that kind of makes things a little bit nicer. Now, for my non-Catalyst users, again, you just need to know what your session code is, and you need to communicate it in some fashion. You don't have the password protection or the save rights, I don't believe. I would have to double check in that, but Cloud Gateway is what enables you to make the connection and be able to send out. I will double check on that one in terms of exactly what rights or not rights you have, but I'm pretty sure you don't have the ability to restrict their save rights. That's something that comes with Catalyst and the CaseViewNet license, but I'll double check on that. We'll answer that towards the end of the session. So the important thing is that the attorney gets this information. So let's say they do that, and let me just bear with me 1 second here. I just want to make sure I have the correct information, 9QOFD1, just in case I have to redo this, because I noticed I had some leftover information on another screen. So I think I've got the correct password in there. It should be okay. But I didn't get my name in there. So let's say I'm the attorney. I am now Bob Smith of Smith and Davis LLC, and my email is bob@sdllc.com or something like that. And when I connect, it should connect me to the reporter. And that's all they have to do. And you can even shortcut that. There are ways that you could add to that CaseViewNet code so that you could fill in their name and their email address and their company name for them. Okay, so you can see it has gone ahead and it's connected, but since the reporter hasn't started yet, it hasn't actually started receiving yet. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to Catalyst. I'm going to go back to the reporter's view. Let me actually go ahead and get started. And my translate, here we go. Let me start fresh on my writer here. I ended the practice file I was playing with in between the 2 webinars to try and get my writing just a little bit cleaner before I started this today. I had started to create a file and then I stopped because I was in the middle of explaining something. So let me just rename that file. I have chosen output to CaseView. I've got my passwords. I've got my session code is in there. Oh, and by the way, doesn't help you to save my session code. I'm sorry. If I find out you've used it, and I'll know because I automatically get emails every time my session code is used. So if you use my session code, I'm just killing my session code and getting a new one. So Don't do that. Do I want to record audio? Yes, I do. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I could go ahead and create easy speakers, and I could set up my fields in advance. Anything you would normally do for real time that you normally do to make it as clean as possible, you would go ahead and do that here. But I am connected, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And good afternoon. My name is Cindi. Let's see if I can do this, Lynch. And I am a terrible writer, as you can see. I stink at this. I sing at this. Okay, very good. But if we take a look at what my attorney would be seeing right now, server closed connection, server reason, invalid password. Okay. The reason that happened was because I had some old information that was stuck in here, and that was why it didn't automatically use the correct password, so I just have to put in a correct password. Let me just jump backwards over to Catalyst, and let's say that happens to your attorney. He's like, it's not working, I can't find. Oh, no problem, I'll send you my password again. So I'll just go here over to View, Case View Options, Case View Passwords. Here was the password I was using. So I'll copy that, and then I could paste it into a chat, send it to my attorney. So I could send it that way. Now, notice that when I'm sending you guys a message, I'm sending it from me to the entire audience so that everybody can see the chat. Most chat options will allow you to direct a chat message to one individual person, as opposed to an entire group of people, so that not everybody gets the same thing. So that if you want different passwords for different attorneys, you can arrange that and set that up. And if not, if you're using a chat that doesn't permit that, then what you can do is you can, excuse me, brain is just starting to lock down. It's getting late for me. You can, oh God, I can't even remember what I was saying now. I know that we were giving the password to the attorney. You could have two different passwords. I can't remember what I was saying. It's not important. Let's just move on, and I will pick that thread up in a moment. Okay. So I know what that password was. I can send it to my attorney. My attorney has received it. My attorney can then paste it into his receive dialog box. And let's connect. And hopefully this time everything will work as I expect it to. And we will get the proceedings. And notice that even though we didn't connect immediately, everything that I had written previously did in fact come in. So it's not like if we do this late or we have to stop and then help someone that they're not going to get the text. Now, you'll notice that this is filling up the entire screen right now. That's because that's how I have CaseViewNet set up, is to fill the entire screen. However, they also need to see Zoom, don't they? Well, there's two different ways the attorney or whoever the client is, if it's a card client, if it's, whoever it is that's doing this, there's two different ways that they can do this. If they only have one screen available to them, they can split the screen and have part of it be CaseViewNet and part of it be their Zoom conference. If they have multiple screens, if they have multiple devices, they can just simply put, one app on one screen and one app on another screen, or one app on one device and one app on another device. But if they're not using two screens and they need to split it, here's how they would do it. The first thing they would do, and you can see, by the way, I do not have notes on this one in the handout because I didn't realize that everybody would want to do this or teach their clients how to do this. So one of the things that was asked of me in a previous session is whether or not I would make these instructions available. And the answer is yes. I'm going to put a document on our help desk. On our the Stenograph Solutions Center. I will be putting up a document, I hope, by the end of the day tomorrow. So it will be available, and it will have step-by-step instructions plus illustrations as to exactly how to do this. So what I would have someone do is I would tell them, and it's not hard, this is really easy stuff. what I would have them do is first put their cursor at the very, very top of the screen where it says minimize, restore down, and close, and put it on that middle button which says restore down. So not minimize, not close, not the minus, not the X, the little two windows overlapping each other. First, they click that to make the screen just a little bit smaller than it would normally be. And I'm just going to make it even smaller so that you can see that it's a separate screen. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that separate screen. I'm going to click on the title bar. I'm going to drag it as far to the left as I possibly can until it won't go any further. When it won't go any further, and again, it takes it a little bit before it catches up with me, so it's being sent to your system right now. When I take it as far left as it can go, see that outline that just appeared on your screen where it's basically there's an outline of like half a page and it's just filling up half your screen? When I drop this application, what's going to happen when I drop the left mouse button is that it will fill exactly half of the screen. And then on the other half, it will list all of the different applications that I currently have open. So for me, the different applications I currently have open there, they just appeared. I have a Catalyst. I happen to have a little notepad app. I have GoToWebinar. I have a PowerPoint going. I have a PDF file that I had open. I also have Zoom. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click my Zoom window. And now my Zoom window is going to fill the other half of the screen. Now, it just depends as to how much text you want to see as to how much of the screen you need for your text versus how much you need for your Zoom. And it also depends on how big your screen is and how you want to be able to see the things that are coming to you via the web conferencing app. But just assume that this half of the screen is all the pictures of the people that you'll be talking to, and this half is your text. And by the way, you don't have to use this particular view with like, the yellow, or manila-ish beige background with the black text. Another thing you can do, especially for my card providers, but for anyone who wants to do this, if you just move the cursor on the CaseViewNet app, one of the things that it will do eventually, it will pop up. There we go. Notice that I have some options here, which include this little button in the left-hand corner. And when I click that, oh, come on, come back. There we go. What it will do is it'll open up a panel. Come on, you can do it. There we go. So there's the panel, and one of the options at the top of that panel is Cart View. When I click Cart View, then rather than getting the manila with black on top, it will change to a cart view. Its default is blue with yellow text, but again, you can make that be whatever you want. You can change your color, you can change your font, you can change whether it's bold or not, you can change the margins, you can change the spacing between the lines, you can change all sorts of stuff. If I hit Escape to make it come out of the full screen mode, it goes back to just filling half the screen. And if you wanted to fill up less of the screen, let's say you just wanted just a tiny little amount showing. You just wanted, like, let's say enough for 5 words on a line or something like that. What I can do, first of all, let me get rid of that view option. Let's get rid of that. And then, I'm just waiting for it to catch up. If I want to make the Zoom side larger and the text side smaller, I can just click in between the two apps on that line between the two and then just drag and let go, and the other app resizes itself automatically to fill the area of the screen that isn't being used by the one that I just made smaller. So splitting the screen is a very easy thing for them to do, and then they can see your real time. And it appears as you're writing it, and it will appear better than mine. I will just write what they typically say now, because we know that this is what they're usually talking about. There we go. That's what it usually looks like. There we go, with maybe, some Q&A in there or some chevrons or something like that. But you can go ahead and create that very, very simply for them. And it's using tools that you either already have or that you can get for a very inexpensive price without any tinkering around or waiting for us to come up with some sort of a special app that could go directly into a captioning feed to fit into a captioning window within Zoom. We don't do that currently. There are ways to work around it with third-party apps, but this CaseViewNet method seems to work extremely well. So that's basically how that works. And the other thing that I just wanted to show you, if I could real quickly, is if I go to my last slide in my PowerPoint display, and I went too fast. All right, where did you go? There we go. Okay, so let me go back to my PowerPoint, and I will show the last slide, and it will just flip over. Come on, you can do it. And then you can see a picture of kind of what that could look like. And on this one, I just have the Zoom on the left and the captioning on the right, as opposed to the other way. But again, all your clients need is your session code and password, and then they know that CaseViewNet Browser Edition can either be run on the same computer and tablet or on a separate device or screen, and it's their choice. Okay, we still have 15 minutes. Thank you. So now what we can do, since we've covered all of the material that I had planned to cover, is that I'm going to first, let me toss this over to Ryan. Ryan is, as I mentioned before, the director of, he's the product manager for our writers, and he wants to tell you about the exciting new video that we have for you guys that I think you're going to enjoy using. So Ryan, are you there?
Yep, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Why don't you go ahead and there you go. You're going to bring up your beautiful picture, and thank you. Hi, it's good to see you. So go ahead and tell the folks all about it.
Sure, yeah, thanks. Thank you, Cindy. So I wanted to just show my face a little bit and introduce our new writer adjustment video that we've released recently. So it's available now on our YouTube homepage, and it'll take you through all of the adjustments that are available on the Luminex II. And I think it does a good job of differentiating between the physical adjustments, your tension and depth of stroke, versus your software adjustments and what those are and how they differ from each other. And it also tries to give a little bit of insight into why you would make those different adjustments, why you might want to think about them, and how to think about them. So please take a look at it. We're really excited for it. It was one of the first really in-depth pieces that I worked on here, and it was great for me to learn a bit about this really unique machine. As Cindy mentioned, I'm the product manager over the writers, and I've been in this position for almost 6 months now. So I've been doing a lot of learning about the product and the industry, and I'm excited to get to know more of you. Thank you again, Cindy, for giving me an opportunity to say hello to everybody and to plug my video.
I appreciate you stopping by and telling everybody about it. I'm really excited about it too, because I spend an awful lot of time on Facebook, and I've seen so many questions by everyone about, well, it's dragging, no, it's dropping, it's stacking, no, it's splitting. What am I supposed to do? Oh, you should change it this much. No, you shouldn't change it that much because that's different for you than it is for somebody else. And trying to explain it in writing sometimes is just impossible, and it's so much better when you can actually see what's happening. So I'm thrilled about that video, and I'm really glad that we were able to share it with everyone. Okay, let me take a look at some of the questions that I've got, and I do have Karen Peck here, who will be able to answer some questions, and John McInerney as well. So I'm very excited that we have other people who can help me out here as well. Oh, and I also have, forgive me, Star Lewandowski, who is our vice president of, I can never remember your whole title, Star, please forgive me. But
you can just say, just marketing is fine.
Okay, yeah, no, she's vice president and goddess of us all, and we appreciate everything she does. So she is. If you have any general policy questions or anything like that, please don't hesitate. So I'm going to go through the list and see if I can find some of them to see. Okay, some of these are about recording and how each thing works, and what are mentioning individual results. I'm going to save those questions for later because those I can respond to individually, and I think they'll make more sense as opposed to trying to make that work with everybody here. I'm going to try and find the questions which are most generic. Okay, so let's see. In remote depots, do the attorneys or witnesses or connected parties have the capability to record the proceedings on their own devices? Thank you. The answer to that depends on the individual software. The web conferencing software may permit that, it may not. It depends on what has been secured and what has not. Frequently, no. However, there are outside applications that do allow you to do that. So is it possible? Yes, it's always possible. Is it easy? Not necessarily. So that would be the answer to that question. That was forgive me, I'm going to butcher your name and I do apologize. Adrianelle Sorrells. So that was your question. Let's see. Or I'm sorry, no, that was Cynthia Garduke. That was Cynthia's question. Adriana Sorrells, your question was, is the CaseView session code a one-time purchase by the reporter or is it a purchase per job by the attorney? The how you charge attorneys for your real-time feeds is up to you. In terms of how we charge you to have a session code, let me actually turn that over to Karen Peck. Karen, can you go ahead and explain what someone would need to buy in terms of a session code and what that's good for, how many connections, that sort of thing?
Absolutely, Cindy. Can you hear me?
Yes, I sure can.
Awesome. So what our customers would need is a CaseViewNet license and the session code, which can be purchased off of our website, or you can certainly reach out to your local sales representative and they will assist you. And the pricing right now is actually, because we know everybody is transitioning to working this way and doing this way, and we're also recognizing the fact that we're all dealing with COVID-19, those prices are right now discounted. So the CaseViewNet license is usually $299, but right now you can purchase one for $199. And then to answer the question about the cloud session code, it is a one-time yearly purchase. So you'd be purchasing it once. And again, pricing was usually $135, but right now it's $99. Again, to help out our customers and recognize that everybody's transitioning to this. So hopefully that answers the question.
Well,
if you have anything else, Cindy, let me know.
Yeah, one thing that Andrianelle asked was, is it a one-time purchase? Or, so once they pay the $99, they just have it forever? Or is it something that needs to be renewed?
Yeah, so it's a purchase that's it's yearly. So that $99 will give you unlimited access to have as many remote sessions or cloud CaseViewNet browser sessions that you need to have, and as many clients to join. It's up to 50 clients. We kind of anticipate that you might not have more than that, but if you do need more than that, then just reach out to us and we can extend that for more participants. But that's for a year, and then you would obviously renew that the following year.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Karen. I appreciate that. Let's see. I'm looking for. Yeah, okay. Eve Burton asked, on the CaseViewNet login information, why is your last field auto-populating a session code instead of prompting for an email address? Yeah, that's a boo-boo on my system. That has nothing to do with reality. It was something that I had typed in once and I typed in incorrectly, and then it got stored in there. So that was my fault. Don't blame the software for my cuckoo things that I've done. Okay, does the client need to have CaseViewNet already downloaded on their computer? No, CaseViewNet Browser is strictly something that you get when you go to a website. There is no software involved whatsoever. They don't need to have it to be able to receive the text. If they want to save the transcript, so you've given them the rights to save and they email it to themselves, then yes, they would need to go ahead and download CaseViewNet software to some computer so that they could go ahead and open up that email and open up that file. And that's just PCNet. You can just go to stenograph.com to get that software. That's free. It doesn't cost them anything. It takes up very little space and it doesn't interfere with any other programs. It's not going to be like a security risk or anything like that. So they would only need that CaseViewNet PC software if they were trying to save the rough transcript that got sent for during real time. So that's the only time they would need that. Let's see, I just purchased CVN license. I only need to send, this is Jane Proud's question. I only need to send real-time to my iPad that I hand to a judge to watch. No other viewers, no attorneys, etc. I don't need a session code, correct? But then I can't use the generate link feature, true? True, but the question is, are you there with your judge? If you are in person, yes. If you are not in person, if your judge is going to be in another room, or if you're going to be, if you're separated in physically so that you're going to be at home and your judge is going to be present and you're going to be listening through a system like Court Call or something like that, if you are not going to be physically together, then you might want to use CaseViewNet Browser, because you can still send it to your judge and he can still be getting your real time, and all he needs is an internet connection on his iPad. He just won't be using yours because you'll still be at home and with your iPad unless you've given it to your judge. If so, wow, you're generous. Okay. How long is a session code good for? By Scott. And yes, that's a year. And again, that's an annual subscription. Yvonne Whitefield wants to know, are you going to do any more webinars for this last session or for the last session that I just taught on version 21? No, I actually just taught that. This was the last time that I taught it. However, we did record it and we're recording this session, and we are going to make both of those sessions available for on-demand viewing. That will probably come out sometime in June. We're going to take a look at the videos from the various seminars that I've done, and we'll pick the best one, and then we'll make those available, and that'll probably just be in a couple of weeks, and we'll make those available to you. Does this, and we'll send out an email, we'll probably do a big email blast to let you know when that appears. Let's see, does this option changing color/font also work on iPad when using CaseViewNet? I think it depends on whether you're using CaseViewNet Browser or whether you're using the ICVNet app. The ICVNet app, I don't recall off the top of my head. John McInerney, my support specialist guru, wonderful director god. John, do you know, with ICVNet, can you do that? I know you can do it obviously with CaseViewNet Browser, but does ICVNet offer any different colors? I can't remember.
I don't think you can change the colors with it. I don't have an iPad in my fun new remote office.
Okay.
But we've got a couple, so we can get that in. I can email that answer out later.
Okay, yeah, do that, because although I do have it, I don't know how fast it would be for me to pop it. Oh, wait, no, I've got it. By the way, here's my ICVNet on my iPad. I can do a font size change real easily, but I don't have an option to change colors on ICVNet. So if the color and font options are a concern for you, then simply have them connect via a session code instead of connecting locally or using the ICVNet app as via the internet, as opposed to using the internet and getting CaseViewNet Browser, because then they have all of those options. Would you kindly put on the Solution Center how to split the screen? That is nifty. Yes, Doreen, I am planning to do that. That was Doreen Sutton, and Doreen, I will have that up there hopefully by tomorrow afternoon. If not, then definitely by June 1st at the very latest. Let's see. In CaseViewNet, is my client able to scroll backwards while I continue to real time? Yes, absolutely. And that's regardless of what app they're using. And then there's a little button which appears at the top when they are no longer viewing real time, and it flashes at them saying, follow real time, follow real time, follow real time. So they know that they're no longer in real time. And when they click that button, they go back to the live display. Let's see, where is the video for Ryan Piper's video file? Ryan, can you tell them where to go find that? That's our Stenograph YouTube channel, right?
Yes, that's available on our YouTube channel. It's also on our website,
Okay.
and I believe it has gone out over social media. I will, if I can share the YouTube link with you in a moment, you could share it with the rest of the chat if that's all right.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, if you just send that to me in chat, then I can share it with the entire audience, I believe. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'll just wait to get that. And while I'm doing that, let me look for another question. Okay. Bear with me just a second. Question from Beth. Why wouldn't all reporters want to use the stereo mix all the time? Is it something that you choose once, or every time you want to use, you have to re-choose? No, if you've used it and it works well for you, then you would probably continue to use it and you'd use it every time. That's fine. There are different reporters who have different experiences, and there are some people who don't have the access to stereo mix. So that would be the reason why some reporters might choose not to use that method. It also depends on what you're trying to do. Are you trying to record just to the computer, or do you also want to record to your writer? Do you want to have, would you prefer to have separate screens? Maybe you only have two PCs, two laptops, but you don't have separate screens to extend or something like that. It's a matter of what equipment you have and what you want to use. So I don't know that there's necessarily a quote unquote best way to do everything. Stereo mix can be an easy way to do it, but it's not necessarily the be all end all for every single person. It just depends on what they've got access to it. What brand of USB powered microphone or powered microphone will you recommend? Well, I know that Stenograph has one microphone that we sell with our writers that we recommend for the writer. I don't know that I necessarily recommend any one particular other microphone for other purposes. So I would say visit stenograph.com and take a look under our accessories and take a look at that one. Beyond that, it's whatever works well for you. We don't get upset if you use other stuff. Let's see. Okay, can you purchase session codes without a CVNet license? Karen, you want to hit that one for me? Joyce Martin would like to know, can you purchase a session code without a CVNet license, CaseViewNet license? And who would do that?
Right, absolutely. Right. No, you do need to have a CaseViewNet license in order to then be broadcasting out through a session code. So that's something that you need to have both of those in order to.
What if I'm not a Catalyst user, though?
Oh, then you would be using, our Cloud Gateway product. Yes. So yes, you'd be using Cloud Gateway and a session code.
Okay. So Cloud Gateway takes the place of a CaseViewNet license.
Correct.
For a non-Catalyst user.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we were communicating that one correctly, because I know I can screw it up at times. So, okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. And again, if anybody has any questions, certainly reach out to their local sales representative. They'd be happy to walk them through all the different options.
Okay, very good. It looks like we've run out of time, and I don't want to keep you guys too long. So here's what we're going to do. Any questions that I wasn't able to address, I am going to be spending, I bet the next day and a half. I don't know how long on all of the questions that I've received, both in today's this webinar, the one before, and I've still got a few left over from the previous sessions. So I'm going to be answering questions for a while. Again, I think what I'm going to try and do is just collect all of the most common questions into a document that I then send out to all of our participants, and maybe I'll find a way to make that available to other customers as well, either through the Solution Center, through various documents. But I appreciate every single one of those questions that you've asked. I will make sure that you get answers. And I appreciate each and every one of you for coming today. The tremendous support of my teammates at Stenograph makes doing something like this just such a pleasure. And but I wouldn't do it at all if it wasn't for our wonderful customers, because I just love talking to you guys, and I appreciate that you're willing to listen to me drone on and on and on. Hopefully I will get to see all of you in person sometime relatively soon. Stay safe, stay healthy, and if you need us for anything, call us, let us know what you need, and we will do our best to be there for you. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye.